wonder how the D-line room is looking, the development. Obviously, you got a lot of guys experienced last year that are looking to emerge. Just can you give us a snapshot of how that position group is looking?
Yeah, there are some guys. That's one area that some guys that have played a little bit, and those guys have been working hard trying to find pairs and spares in there, with some of the young folks and some of the new guys that came on board. So, we're two handfuls of practices in, and I think those guys are working hard to understand what we're doing. It's not as simple as sometimes it looks. And I think B, trying to play hard and do all the things that we ask, the standards that we play at. But proud of our older guys that have been here, working really hard and working really hard to bring along all the pairs and spares and the competition for sure.
Along those same lines, on the interior of the defensive line with no Isaiah and that position being important and really productive for you guys over the course of the last however many years. Can you just talk a little bit about that position and who you're seeing there that can continue on, why that position?
Yeah, for sure. I think Dom Orange has done a great job. J.R. Singleton, those two guys are fighting it out, 1 and 2, trying to compete to be the starter. So I think great competition in there. Zamir Hawk's done a great job as well. Anthony Cunningham, and we're rolling, T.O.'s got the ability to move in there as well. So there's some depth there. Great competition right now. Those two guys are fighting every day to get the starting reps, and that's been fun to watch. And then, you got a guy, Zamir Hawk is an interesting guy for a young guy, very athletic in there. Maybe a little different than what we've had, but brings some stuff. And then Anth obviously is just a big body in there that can help us. So, and then spare wise, you always got T.O. that you can move in there, and he's played in there some.
Why is that position so important to what you guys do?
It's cliche old stuff, but you got to be good down the middle, in every athletic of every sport. So you got to be good at nose and at Mike and at middle safety for us. And when we go to our split safety stuff, it's still the two inside tackles and the Mike backer and all that. So it all starts in the middle. We try to push everything out, but it's like every other sport: point guard, pitcher, catcher, all the above, and that position. And they get a lot of hands on them. They get sometimes 4 hands on them and 6 hands on them. And by that, I'm just saying that our guy, they're getting doubled by the guards, and sometimes they're getting both guards. And so you got to be tough, and you have to have numbers in there too. You can't just play with one guy.
With Will, and then before that, Jaquan, this will be the first time in 5 years you don't have the career sacks leader at Iowa State on the roster. What's just the dynamic there?
I think working through it, to be honest, I think we've got some guys. I think there's some young folks floating around there that are young Jaquans and young Wills, and that's exciting to me. And I think trying to sort out through camp and reps and numbers and all that, the guy that's done a tremendous job has been Joey Peterson. Great pass rush, done a great job, really taken kind of a leadership role, and I think he's done a great job for us. Trent Jones gives us a little bit of that from the boundary, a little bit like MJ did in there. And so I think, Ike and Sam Same, I think those guys are young guys coming along, and I think there's, I don't think they're ready yet for sure, but I think there's some guys there in that group that look like those young guys did.
Why's TJ Tampa so good? What makes him so good?
I think first, Randy, I think he, and I think TJ would tell you this, he really grew up over the last year, and I think became tried to perfect his craft and really tried to embrace leadership and embrace being the corner and being a guy that can cover guys in critical situations. And, I think that's part of maturing and saying, hey, I don't want to be just a corner. I want to be the corner. I want to be a real corner. And I think, Hank's been done a great job with him in that area. And I think just growing, he's long, he's fat, he's got all of those different abilities. But I think the mindset has been the number one thing that's allowed him to grow.
How was it for him to learn the position, being at his first camp?
Yeah, for sure. And I think part of that too. And he spoke to our team the other night, and I think just mindset. It's different than being on the other side of the ball, and you become reactionary, and it has to be something you really want to do. It's physical over there. It's you're out on an island over there, and I think he just grew up and realized, man, my why is my family, and my why is my craft, and just made a choice to go be great, and really proud of who he's become.
you speak a little more on Joey Peterson and maybe what he brings to the team as a player, but also as a leader?
Yeah, he's a Peterson. He's tough. He's physical. He's mentally tough. He's strong, extremely strong. And I think so that's the first thing he brings. He brings an edge when he plays, and I think that's important when you play defense. I think he's adopted the leadership concept as well as being all of that. Hey, you know what, there's some young guys around here. I've got to help them be better like somebody helped me, and I think that's what he's added to it.
Can you break down kind of how the depth chart looks right now at linebacker, those 3 spots, kind of who's been battling for those?
Yeah, I can't, but that's a good thing. I think the competition, I think obviously Gary Vaughn, I can tell you who the will linebacker is going to be, or at least is penciled to be because of the veteran of the play. Everybody else, I mean, you know, everybody's fighting in there. Jacob Eltz is fighting in there for reps and special teams and doing a great job. Cooper Ebel, young kid who came in, has done a great job at the will spot. Mike linebacker, Jack Sadowski, Zach Lovett. You know, we've had Jacob Imming in there, Caleb Bacon in there. There's 3 or 4 guys at all those positions that are really fighting for spots. At the Sam spot, it's Carson and Will McLaughlin and JJ Jean-Louise, and those guys every single day it's a battle to get reps, and it's exciting as a coach to watch it because you feel like they all have the abilities. You know, sometimes you have competition and man, not so sure. I really feel great about the abilities of these guys. Now it becomes who's going to be the most consistent every single day, hey, to play Sam linebacker, to line up and fit in the right gaps and, you know, cover people and do the things that they're supposed to do. So a lot of competition. There's not really a depth chart other than Gary Vaughn would be penciled in because of who he is and what he's done here for us.
You mentioned Jack Sadowski, Coach Campbell's mentioned him a lot. Are there some similarities there maybe to what Mike Rose had coming in playing as a freshman that is going to allow him to do that?
Yeah, I think so. I don't ever really compare kids. I don't ever look, you know, who are they like? They're themselves. So I don't know that I look at it that way. I look at a guy that's had a great, since he's been here, got himself developed in the weight room, has mentally caught on to what we're trying to do, which again for young people is probably 7/10 of it. And at least getting himself lined up and everybody else, that position becomes critical because you're the quarterback of the defense. And sometimes when you're a young guy, you don't have a lot of plays mindset-wise to draw from, like, man, this hasn't happened to me a bunch before. So, you know, we've put a lot of pressure on him and all of that group in there. And, you know, they've all responded. So I think he's physical. He's learned well. I think all the guys at that spot are physical players. I think we're blessed in there with that.
You guys talk a lot about how you want people who love to play football, and it seems like Beau Freeler is a guy who's embodied that as well as anybody. How would you describe the way he plays the game and you know, and studies the game to get to where he's been?
Well, he's everything that you hope for as a coach. You know, he's the same guy on the field. He's the same guy off the field. He's the same guy in the locker room. He's the same guy. If he came in here and talked to you all, have interviewed him, he's the same person all the time. And he's driven, he's motivated, he's passionate, and yet he has great compassion for his teammates and the young guys and all of those people. And I think Beau is one of those guys also knows that it's no matter how well he plays, if everybody else doesn't play well, man, we're not as good. And he spends, you know, what I consider most valuable players. The most valuable player is the guy that makes everybody else out there better. And he's one of those guys. And, you know, we're fortunate to have him. And you know, he competes at the highest level every single day, whether he's on the field or off, no matter what down it is, man. He's the best cheerleader. He's the best teacher. He's the best friend out there. He's all that stuff.
Coach, you run a system that's kind of contingent on later in the game we'll make adjustments to what we're doing, not necessarily a player-focused type of thing, but how do you go about, I guess, crafting a defensive line this year after losing Isaiah Lee, MJ, and Will McDonald?
Well, you do it the same way you did. You know, I don't think you change. You know, I think you have to understand that there's some learning, some growth, things that go on in there. But I don't think we change how we coach or defenses that we call or any of those kind of things. I think you have to be respectful. I mean, obviously, Will McDonald was a first-round draft choice. I mean, everybody that loses at every university that loses one of those guys it's different. I think there may be some young folks floating around there that may be that guy someday. So you just continue to work and play, and you just keep coaching them as hard as you can coach them. You find the things that they can do and where they fit in, and sometimes it's a little bit more by group and freshness and all of those things. So I don't think you approach it differently. I think you try to just keep coaching them, and you have to have some understanding. You got some new guys in there who haven't played for 3 straight years. That's real. They haven't experienced everything that those guys have. So, I think you just keep grinding away at it.
I know we're just in camp, but how have those young guys been able to respond to that opportunity? Especially
Awesome. They're incredible. First of all, they're incredible humans. We're blessed with those guys are. I mean, man, you love those kids. They're incredible human beings. And when you're that, you take coaching, you listen, you work at it really hard. When it doesn't go good, you feel bad. When it goes good, you're trying to hope you get to have another good one. And so I think that's been the blessing. Those guys have been incredible, and we go fast. Things are happening fast out there, but really proud of them at this point.
Coach Campbell said at Media Day something like an average of 8 pounds per player of weight and muscle gain. Is that something that's stuck out to you on the defensive side of the ball? I know, like, Gary, for example, was one of the guys that we saw at Media Day that looked bigger.
Yeah. I think all those guys, and I shout out to, nutrition, and it's been a village, really, to get all of those things to happen. I think, Coach Campbell and strength staff and nutrition, I don't think it's ever, good or bad if it's ever one person. I think it's always a village. I think our guys have done a great job, our support group. I think the other thing is our players recognized maybe that, wow, there's some areas here that we need to improve. And individually, as I look at myself and think, man, I'm Gary, I'm going into myself, I got to get this. This has to happen for me. Where do you think I should be? And I think our players have bought into it 100%. I mean, I'm not sure I've seen anything like it, and I think it starts with our players. Got tremendous support staff that is working together, to get it done. But I'm really proud of our players. I think from sleep and eating and snacking and all the things that it takes, hydrating, I think they've bought it and done a great job.
To go back to the defensive line, we talked about all the productive guys that you don't have anymore. How much credit does Coach Rashid get for all those guys' success, and then how much, solace do you take that he's going to find those next guys with the group he's got now?
Yeah, well, I mean, Sheed's, he has developed all of those guys along the way. I think even you look back at Will. I mean, Will had not played a whole lot of football and not played really defensive line, and everybody wondered, how's that guy doing it? Well, he's got a great coach and got a great teacher. And, we always talk about trying to be the best professors on campus, and I think Sheed is one of those guys at that position. I think he does a tremendous job with those guys. I think he buys into their hearts and souls, and I think that's what's allowed him to develop young people faster than maybe some. So I give him a lot of credit for that, for sure.
We got 2 more right up here.
Hey, Coach, thanks for the time. Obviously a deep safety class coming in 2023. And then, you had a lot of players that got some time from 2022 second-year guys. What is maybe some of the depth and what's kind of stood out about some of those younger guys in a deep safety room as a whole?
I think the same thing that I expressed a little bit about the linebacker group. I think there's tremendous competition there. Nick, I think every day, you see a glimpse of this or a glimpse of that, or a freshman that got here in June, or a guy that got here last January, or we've been moving those guys around, and again, I think Dion does a good job as well. I think he coaches those guys, and I think that's the blessing I have probably as a coach, is I got a room full of guys that really are great teachers and professors, and I think they do a great job at every position. And I think Dion's the same. I think he's moving all of those guys around, putting a lot of pressure on them to learn different spots. We're playing probably a little more split safety than we have, and so that's a big deal. And I think those things are all of a sudden who can learn the fastest and who can carry over one day to the next. And then you're blessed by competition. Man, had a rough period. Man, the next guy gets a chance. And that's oftentimes a great teacher as well.
What are your thoughts on how Will McDonald has transitioned and how he's doing this?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at anything. The only thing I guess I'm probably surprised of is that nobody's taken his skateboard away from him yet. That would be the first thing that I would say. But I'm not shocked at all. I think Will is everything that he was here. They're going to see at the next level. You're going to see a kid that loves football. That the minute I cross the white line, I'm going to compete, and it's really what I told all the scouts and GM people that came to ask me what I thought. Tremendous competitor, tremendous athlete, great team player, and he loves football, and he'll love that locker room too. And I think that's the real plus about him. He's an awesome guy, and I'm proud of him. And he's just getting started. Just getting started. I'm sorry?
Did you ever try to take away the skateboard?
Oh, I think this building, I think the skateboard might have disappeared.